The sky was dark with smoke as the alien ship landed in the middle of the city. People ran, some screamed, but no one fought. Everyone had heard the warnings for months. The Zoracs were coming, not to destroy, but to deliver a message. They were tall, cold beings with silver skin and black eyes. They didn't blink, didn't smile, and didn't care much for emotions. They called themselves keepers of logic and masters of prediction. And now, they stood in the ruined streets of New York City, ready to speak. Dr. Lena Ray stood near the edge of the crowd. She wore a long coat full of dust and wires from her lab. She didn't run like the others. She watched with calm eyes and a sharp mind. Her black hair was tied back, and her face was tired, but not afraid. She had seen their data already. She had seen the report. The Zorak leader, known as Zelthar, stepped forward. His voice was cold and mechanical, as if he had practiced it 1,000,000 times. "People of Earth," he said, "your time is limited. We have run the numbers. Your planet has 17 years before collapse. This is not war. This is not judgment. It is truth, proven by calculation." Gasps came from the crowd. Some dropped to their knees. Others shouted in fear. But Lena just laughed, a short, sharp laugh that turned heads. Zelthar paused. His dark eyes turned toward her. "You find this humorous?" Lena stepped forward. "No, I find it hopeful." The alien tilted his head. "Hope is not a useful factor in survival." "Then that's where you're wrong," Lena said. "You may be masters of logic, but your model is broken." The crowd was quiet now, watching her. Even the soldiers at the side of the ship shifted uncomfortably. "You think we will just die because your math says so?" Lena asked. "You counted pollution, war, disease. You even counted the fall of governments. But you missed one thing." Zelthar stared. "Explain." "You forgot what humans do when we're desperate," Lena said. "You forgot what happens when we hit the bottom. We don't just give up. We fight. We adapt. We become something new." Zelthar responded slowly. "Your confidence is not supported by current behavior," Lena smirked. "Because your data ends today." "But we are already changing. We always change." The alien turned back toward his ship. "We will deliver our findings to your world leaders. It is wise to prepare for the end." As the ship lifted off, Lena turned and walked away from the crowd. She didn't need to argue. She didn't need to fight right now. Her real work was still waiting, underneath the city in a hidden lab where new machines were being built by tired hands and hopeful hearts. She pulled a small device from her coat. It blinked red. She spoke into it. "They've made their move," she said. "Time to show them they're not the only ones who can run numbers." In a far-off room, a screen lit up. Maps, energy readings, and strange signals filled the air. Around the world, people were waking up. Scientists, hackers, farmers, soldiers, people who refused to accept the end, people who still believed in something greater than logic. And in the sky above, the Zorak ship moved silently through the clouds, unaware that it had already made its first mistake. It had underestimated a single human. A woman who laughed at their perfect predictions, a woman who was about to break the future. Lena sat alone in her underground lab, staring at the Zorak report again. The screen glowed with strange alien numbers and cold predictions. Most people would not understand what they meant. But Lena did. She had spent 3 nights reading and checking every line. She had not eaten much. She had not slept. And now, finally, she saw it. The mistake. It wasn't big. It was just a small part of a larger formula. But that was the key. The Zoraks had counted everything: temperature, ocean levels, population loss, and energy needs. But they missed something that didn't fit in any of their perfect equations: creativity. They treated humans like machines, like we would follow the same path again and again until we broke. But humans don't do that. We panic, yes. We cry, we fight, we even destroy. But sometimes, in our darkest hour, we create something new, something wild, something no machine could predict. Lena smiled to herself. The Zoraks didn't understand what was coming. She stood up and walked to a second room. Inside, there were 6 people working. They were tired, dirty, and focused. Some were engineers. One was a young student with oil on his face. Another was an old woman who used to be a rocket scientist. Together they were building something. It wasn't finished yet, but it was powerful and dangerous. Lena tapped the table. Everyone stopped. "I found it," she said. "The hole in their math. They don't see us, not really." The young student blinked. "So, we can stop them?" Lena nodded. "We don't have to win a war. We just have to surprise them. Show them something they didn't think was possible." Outside, the world was still full of fear. People were watching the news. Leaders were giving speeches. Some said to stay calm. Others said to prepare for the worst. But no one was doing anything real. They had accepted the Zorak timeline. But Lena hadn't, and she wasn't alone. Far away, on the Zorak ship floating above the Earth, Zelthar stood in a quiet room with tall glass walls. He watched human cities through a glowing map. He saw power grids, water levels, migration patterns. Everything seemed to match the predictions. But then a small alert blinked on his screen. A strange energy spike, very small, in New York, then another, in Tokyo, then in Berlin. These were not nuclear or military. They were unknown. Xelthar frowned. "Run the analysis again," he told the ship's AI. "The pattern does not fit known models," the voice replied. "Then we are missing something," he said. He didn't know it yet, but he was right. Back in the lab, Lena opened a locked drawer. Inside was a black notebook. It wasn't digital. It had no connection to any computer. That's why it was safe. Inside were hand-drawn plans, equations mixed with strange symbols. It looked almost like magic, but it wasn't. It was human science, pushed far beyond today's limits. It was a weapon. But not for killing. It was something that would bend space, change time. A machine to shift the rules of the universe. And it was almost ready. Lena whispered to herself, "Let's see if your numbers can handle this." She turned to her team. "Get ready. They'll notice us soon." And far above on the ship, Zelthar stared at Earth, his perfect confidence starting to crack. He had seen billions of planets, watched thousands of species rise and fall, but none had ever laughed at their own end. None had ever made him feel uncertain. That was the error, and it was just the beginning. The old subway tunnels under New York City were silent, dark, and forgotten. Rats used to be the only ones who lived there, but now something new was being born in the dark. Lights flickered, metal doors buzzed, deep underground, far from the eyes of the world. Lena Ray's lab was growing. It was no longer just a lab. It was a base. The room was bigger now. Generators hummed, wires ran across the floor like veins, screens glowed with data from all over the world. People moved between tables, scientists, engineers, hackers, even ex-soldiers. They had come after seeing Lena's private message. A simple sentence sent across old channels. "They got it wrong." That was all it took. Lena stood at the center, her arms crossed, watching the newest piece of tech being tested. It looked like a small box, nothing special. But when the engineer touched a button, the box lifted into the air and floated quietly. No heat, no wires, no noise, pure anti-gravity, impossible by current science, but very real. "It works," said the engineer with a tired smile. Lena nodded. One step closer. Across the room, a group of kids were drawing on the wall with chalk, not just for fun. Lena had given them a task, to draw what they dreamed the future could look like. One girl had drawn a flying city. Another showed a machine planting trees at super speed. One boy had drawn an alien shaking hands with a human. Lena smiled. That was the real reason the Zoraks would lose. They couldn't dream, but danger was rising. Up in space, on the main Zorak warship, the High Officer Vrelek stormed into the data chamber. His metal claws clicked on the floor. "Why are we seeing new power signatures from Earth?" he asked. The humans are building, answered a Zorak data scientist. Something we do not understand. Are they using alien tech? No, the scientist said. This is human-made, but advanced. It should not be possible yet, Vrelek hissed. Then someone is helping them. They began scanning, Earth harder, watching more closely. They saw strange patterns, places where tech was evolving too fast. Cities where fear had turned into quiet work, and they saw Lena. They watched an old video clip of her speaking at a science conference. She had laughed at a Zorak model years ago. They didn't notice her then. Now, she was everywhere. Target her, Vrelek said coldly, before she becomes more than a problem. Back underground, Lena stared at a map full of red dots. Each dot was one of her new allies, small groups in secret labs, safe houses, or even farms. They were testing new tools, energy shields, food makers, sound weapons, and even emotion blockers to confuse Zorak scanners. Then a new message blinked on the screen. Zorak drone spotted. Near entrance tunnel 9. Lena didn't panic. She pressed a button and spoke calmly. Tunnel 9 team, welcome our guest. 3 people in dark suits moved fast through the tunnel. They were armed, but they didn't shoot. Instead, they released a sound bomb, one of Lena's designs. It didn't explode. It sang. A sharp, strange tone filled the tunnel. The drone shook, sparked, and fell. They collected it. Quiet. Quick. Back in the lab, Lena opened the drone and studied its eye. They're watching. Good, she whispered. Let them see us rise. Everyone in the room cheered softly. No loud victory, just belief, just fire. In the silence of space, Vrelek watched the drone feed. He saw Lena smiling at the camera, and for the first time in his long life, a cold wave of fear passed through him. The humans were not panicking. They were preparing, and the underground sparks were turning into fire. High above the earth, a small Zorak scout ship floated through the clouds. Its mission was simple: scan, observe, and report. It was invisible to human radar, silent, and fast. The Zoraks had used these ships for years without being seen. No human weapon had ever touched one, until now. As the ship moved over a quiet part of Asia, it picked up a strange signal. It was soft, like a whisper, but it followed the ship. Curious, the Zorak pilot scanned the ground. Nothing. Just forest and mountains. But then, without warning, the signal changed, sharp and fast. Before the pilot could react, a bright beam of energy shot from the trees. It wasn't a missile. It wasn't even heat. It was a pulse. Silent, cold, perfect. The ship's systems failed in 1 second. The scout fell from the sky. In Lena's lab, the team watched the crash live. One of her hackers had tapped into a secret Zorak comm line. They had caught the whole thing. Everyone in the room stared at the screen in shock. It worked, someone whispered. Lena didn't smile. She just nodded. That was phase 1. News of the crash spread fast through her underground network. From Tokyo to Nairobi, small groups of humans cheered quietly in their labs and homes. They had proof now. The enemy could be hit. The enemy could fall. And more than that, Lena had just sent a message to the Zorak Empire. You are not the only ones who can evolve. In space, chaos began. Zorak Command couldn't believe the report. One of their ships taken down by humans? Impossible. But the video was clear. The readings were real. Something had changed on Earth. Zelthar watched the replay 100 times. He paused it at the moment the energy pulse hit. No heat, no missile trail, no known tech. How did they do this? He asked. No one had an answer. Back on Earth, Lena gathered her team. We've shown them our first move, she said. Now we start the real work. We stop playing defense. We take the lead. Her voice was steady, but her heart was racing. She knew what came next. The Zorax would not sit still. They would strike back, hard. But Lena wasn't afraid. She had seen something the aliens couldn't understand, how fast humans could learn when the pressure was high. In just a few months, her team had created tech that should have taken 50 years. Fear had become fire, pain had become progress, and now Earth was shifting. A second lab in South America sent word they had finished the prototype shield system. It could block Zorax scanners. A group in Africa was testing a water purifier that worked with almost no energy. Another team in Australia had created a strange sound device that made Zorax soldiers lose control of their minds. Every day, humanity grew stronger. Every day, Lena's network reached further, and soon the world leaders began to notice. A secret meeting was held in Iceland. Small, cold, quiet. Lena was invited. She stood before a group of top scientists, military officers, and even one former president. "You say we can fight them," one man said. "But how? We have no armies left." Lena showed them the drone footage, the lab plans, the tech. "We don't need armies," she said. "We need minds. We need belief. We've already started winning. You just haven't seen it yet." Some still doubted her. Others nodded in silence. But one woman stood and said, "Tell us what to do." Lena looked out at the cold ocean beyond the window. The sky above was clear, but she knew storms were coming. Big ones. She turned back and said, "We move fast. We stay hidden. And when they come down in force, we meet them with something they never prepared for." "What's that?" asked someone. Lena's eyes burned with fire. "Hope," she said, and, far above, the Zorax looked down and saw a planet that was no longer afraid, a planet that was waking up. The shift had begun, and there was no going back. The sky over London was gray and silent. People moved quickly through the streets, not looking up. They were used to the silence now. Planes no longer flew. The city felt frozen, waiting for something, anything, to happen. That something came. Just after midnight, a huge Zorak war drone dropped from the clouds. It wasn't quiet. It wasn't hiding. This one wanted to be seen. It hovered above the city like a monster made of black steel, covered in lights and spinning weapons. It gave no warning. It didn't speak. It just opened fire. Buildings exploded. Streets burned. Sirens screamed. People ran, but there was nowhere to go. The Zorax had chosen this moment carefully. They wanted to send a message, "We are still in control." But they didn't know Lena had planned for this. Deep under the city, inside an old power station, a team of engineers stood ready. One of them, a woman named Kaya, pressed a button on her tablet. A low hum filled the air. Above, as the Zorak drone moved toward the financial district, something strange happened. Its systems flickered, lights flashed. Its weapons powered down. And then, boom! A white energy blast shot from a rooftop and hit the drone dead center. The drone shook, but didn't fall. It turned, trying to find the attacker. But the humans had already moved. Kaya ran up the stairs with her team, carrying a second device. It looked like a trash can, but it held the most powerful magnetic field generator ever made by human hands. They placed it in the middle of the street and ran. The drone located the device just as it activated. A pulse of force hit the drone's core, and this time, it fell, right in the heart of London. People screamed and ran, but others stopped and stared. They couldn't believe it. The thing that had been destroying their city just seconds ago now lay broken, smoking, and powerless. Kaya called Lena on a secure line. "We did it," she said. "Drone is down." Lena's voice came back, calm but proud. "Get out of there. More will come." And more did come. 2 smaller scout drones arrived minutes later. But this time, humans were ready. Rooftop teams in the east part of the city used sound disruptors. The scouts lost control and crashed into the river. The people of London, once afraid, now stood on rooftops and cheered. This was not just survival. This was resistance. News of the attack spread fast. Video clips showed the massive drone crashing, sparks flying, people cheering. For the first time since the Zorax arrived, humans saw proof. They could fight back and win. In her lab, Lena watched the footage again and again. Not because she doubted it, but because it filled her with something dangerous. Belief. "We're turning the tide," said one of her engineers. "Not yet," Lena replied. "This was just the first real strike. Now they know we're serious." In space, the Zorak High Command gathered. Zelthar stood in front of the council. A large screen behind him showed the fallen drone in London. His voice was calm, but his fingers twitched. "They have advanced," he said. "They are not the species we once observed. Their technology is growing too fast. Their unity is increasing." Another Zorak leader spoke. "Then we must destroy key locations." Zelthar stared at Earth. "No," he said. "We do not panic. We study. We adjust." But deep inside, he knew the truth. The numbers had changed. The humans were not falling as predicted. They were rising, fighting, winning, and Lena Ray, the woman they once ignored, was becoming something terrifying, a leader. And the next strike wouldn't come from the sky. It would come from Earth, from the ground. From below, and it would hit much, much harder. A cold rain fell on Berlin. The city was quiet, too quiet. People stayed indoors watching the sky. The Zorax hadn't attacked again, not since London, but everyone knew another hit was coming. The aliens always followed a pattern, but this time, Lena Ray had a different plan. She stood in a deep underground bunker with her most trusted team. On the table before her was a map of the Earth. Dots glowed where Zorak bases hovered in the sky. Red meant active, blue meant hidden, yellow meant moving. "Their pattern is clean," said Anil, her lead strategist. "They hit major cities every 6 days, always at midnight, always fast, then gone." "They want us scared, not wiped out," Lena said. "They want to control the story." Anil nodded. But we're going to break that pattern before they even act." She turned to a screen. A live feed from the Arctic Circle blinked on. A tiny human base covered in snow. White winds howled around it. Inside, 3 scientists waited near a strange machine glowing with orange light. It was the shift engine, version 2. The first version had only moved energy. This one could bend reality. "We're going to move a Zorak ship," Lena said, "without touching it." The room went silent. "You mean teleport it?" Anil asked. Lena shook her head. "Not quite. We'll swap its location with open space." "Like space vacuum?" Yes. Even for her team, the idea was terrifying. The math was unstable. The energy required was massive. But if it worked, they wouldn't just destroy a Zorak ship. They'd delete it from Earth's sky. No wreckage, no fight, just gone. Lena checked her watch. Ship 17 over Western Russia is our target. Activation in 5 minutes. Meanwhile, up on Ship 17, Zorak Commander Keltra was preparing for a strike. He was calm, confident. The humans would scream and scatter, like always. But before he could give the order, the lights on his control panel blinked. Once. Twice. Then everything went black. On Earth, the Arctic team activated the shift engine. The glow turned blinding. Wind howled, ice cracked. One of the scientists screamed, but no one let go. The engine fired. In the sky above Russia, Ship 17 vanished, instantly. 1 second it was there. The next, it was nothing. Not falling, not burning. Just missing. The Zorak fleet panicked. On their command ship, Zelthar stared at the readings. There had been no attack, no blast, no signal. But the ship was gone. And not just gone. It was no longer in this universe. He slammed his claw on the console. They've broken the pattern. Back on Earth, Lena and her team stood in silence, watching the sky. Then cheers broke out. Loud. Real. The kind of cheering that doesn't come from hope, but from proof. "We did it," Anil whispered. "No," Lena said. "We started it. Now." Every human group around the world wanted in. Farmers offered land for tech testing. Students hacked Zorak comms for fun. A band in Mexico turned sound waves into weapon tests. An old woman in India built a working shield out of scrap metal. The Zoraks had predicted human fear. They never saw human chaos, creative, wild, unstoppable. In space, Zelthar sat alone, staring out the window at Earth. His mind ran every number again, every model, every timeline. Nothing made sense anymore. He whispered in his own language, "They are no longer within the formula." He looked down at a report. One name kept appearing in alerts, in drone captures, in hacked signals. Lena Ray. He stood up and made a decision. "If we cannot model her," he said, "we remove her." He pressed a button, and a silent assassin ship turned toward Earth. Lena didn't know yet, but something darker than war was coming. Something personal, the final move, was close, and everything was about to break wide open. Lena Ray stood on the rooftop of the old radio tower outside Helsinki. Cold wind cut across her face, but she didn't move. Her eyes stared at the stars, searching. She knew it was out there, the assassin ship, silent, hidden, sent just for her. "They're not sending armies anymore," she told Anil beside her. "Just one ship, just for me." Anil looked worried. "You think you'll survive this?" Lena smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "Doesn't matter, because it was never about survival now, it was about finishing the equation." Below them, deep underground, the final machine hummed. It was the last piece of the puzzle Lena and her global network had built. Years of stolen Zorak data, human creativity, new science, all combined into one device. The Echo Pulse. It didn't destroy, it didn't kill, it changed minds. The Zoraks had always believed humans were weak because they felt too much. Fear, pain, joy, love. But Lena had learned something else. Emotion wasn't weakness, it was code, and the Echo Pulse could write it. "It's ready," Kaya said over comms. Lena took one last breath. "Begin countdown." Far above, the assassin ship uncloaked. It looked like a shadow made of blades cutting silently through clouds. Inside, the pilot locked onto Lena's signal. No words, no mercy. It launched a black energy spear down toward the tower. Lena didn't run. The spear struck, but it hit a shield. A human-made defense wall powered by every lab Lena had built across Earth. The spear dissolved, and at that same second, the Echo Pulse fired. It wasn't loud. It didn't explode. It simply spread all across the planet, all through orbit, through data streams, through thoughts. It touched every Zorak mind within reach. For a second, they saw what Lena saw: beauty in pain, growth in chaos, hope in failure. And something broke. The assassin ship turned, then powered down. Zorak Command watched helplessly as their fleet ships stopped firing. One by one, they paused. Confused, changed. On their flagship, Zelthar fell to his knees. Not in pain, in understanding. They had never run the right numbers. They had measured weapons, ships, soldiers. But they had never measured the human heart. They had never included belief in their calculations. On Earth, Lena collapsed from exhaustion. Her team caught her. Kaya smiled through tears. "It worked," she said. Lena barely whispered. "It wasn't the tech." What was it then? She opened her eyes weakly. It was the story. The Zorak ships didn't leave Earth in fire. They left in peace, quietly, as if waking from a long dream. Months later, Earth was still rebuilding, but not just its cities, its people, its purpose. The labs were now schools. The shields were now power grids. And Lena Ray? She disappeared from the public eye. But sometimes when a new idea changes the world, people say her name, not as a warning, but as a legend. Because when aliens ran the numbers, they missed one simple human truth. We don't follow the formula, we rewrite it. And that's why Earth won.